Neon Genesis Evangelion versus the reboot of Evangelion. This isn't something that can be summed up in one sentence, and isn't even something that can be concluded after the duration of this video, but we can get close. Let's have a little history lesson. Neon Genesis Evangelion debuted on October 3, 1995, and ended on March 27, 1996 in Japan. Its most notable characters are Shinji, Asuka, Misato, Rei, Gendo, Ritsuko, her mother, Shinji's mother, Kaji, and Fuyutsuki. It was produced by Gainax and written and directed by Hideaki Anno, who would go on to tell New Type magazine, "The development of Evangelion gives me the feeling of a live concert. Whatever the story or the development of the characters, I made them without a plan." During the production, whether listening to various opinions or analyzing my own state of mind, I kept questioning myself. I got the concept from this personal stock taking. At first, I had intended to make a simple work featuring robots. Psychoanalysis is a prominent theme in the Evangelion series. An early example of this being the idea of the Hedgehog's Dilemma, explored during the first few episodes, used to describe the relationship between Misato and Shinji, as a person who was unable to become close with another person because they will hurt them with their sharp spines, or in this case, their deep-seated personal trauma. This is a concept described by philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, later adopted by Sigmund Freud, whose influences can be seen throughout the story, leading up to its conclusion. Religion also plays a big role in Evangelion. If you already couldn't tell, the name of the show, which roughly translates to Gospel of a New Century. Almost as if Anno was telling the audience straight up that this was the beginning of something new, that he was fed up with his life and ready to start over. Before the production of Evangelion began, Hideaki was in a distraught part of his life, as his previous project, Royal Space Force, was a failure. This was a man who was depressed, anxious, coming off the coattails of failure, and met at a bar drinking when Evangelion's time slot was pitched to him by the head of King Records. And who do we blame when they're down on most of their luck? God. Maybe this is why Evangelion has so many religious influences. Whether it's the symbolization of the battle against the angels, the Christian cross, tree of life, day of Thoth, fruit of knowledge, fruit of life, you get the idea. Evangelion 1.0 is going to be scarcely mentioned during the course of this video tutorial, because in my opinion, while it didn't do much to rebuild the Evangelion franchise as Anno had suggested, this film really helped to give the viewer a feel for what kind of person Shinji is, even if it's not necessarily a very likable person. It basically was the closest thing to a carbon copy that we could get, but a good primer to the reboot series as a whole. Fast forward to late March 2009, we are treated to an Evangelion 2.0 trailer. We see enough to speculate and theorize for a long agonizing months ahead, as we wait for what is sure to be one of the best animated films ever made. 2 more trailers are released, we get a glimpse at a new character, Mari Makanami. We get a runtime and most importantly a theatrical release date. Get hyped, the promised time is nigh, and in many ways, it was. Evangelion 2.0, here is a game changer. This is the arc of the rebuilds and everything that they stand for. Now Evangelion 2.0 is not a bad movie. In fact, in anime and overall just film standards, it's a wonderful standalone story. Really, it's a great piece of work. If you want a movie that has steady pace, lots of action, tons of budget, moderate amounts of fan service, engaging character interaction, a conclusion that leaves you begging for more, then this is your film. But to a long-time Evangelion fan, this is where everything came. When it comes to building an atmosphere in a work of fiction, the characters that inhabit the setting are a lot more pivotal than you'd imagine. You can have the most terrifying world of death and decay as possible, but if the players on the field are hollow, the whole machine ceases to function as well as it should. Now, I'm in no way implying that Evangelion 2.0 or 3.0 characters are hollow or soulless. It's more like they're just not all there. Many people will argue this is because it's a movie. These movies don't have 26 episodes to develop characters fully, and with the time that they are given, they do just fine. But this is where my train of thought deviates. This is where I get off and I'm feeling disconnected from the setting. So what's the deal with the rebuilds? Honestly, I'm not entirely too sure how to dive into this thing, considering I have so much to say in so little time. So let's just pick a random location and begin. Rebuild's most influential characters are essentially the same as NGE's. We have Shinji, Asuka, Misato, Rei, Gendo, Ritsuko, her mother, Shinji's mother, Kaji and Fuyutsuki, and now Mari Makanami. Random starting point, go, okay we got Misato, yay! So from NGE we learned that she has a tumultuous relationship with her father. This in turn helps both Shinji and Misato to familiarize with one another, to understand that on a fundamental level they have something in common, which in turn makes it easier for two of them to open up to each other, even in the slightest bit. NGE summarizes Misato as a young girl who always hated her father due to her distance and neglect. She can never forgive him for this and never truly knew how he viewed both her and her mother, if nothing more than an inconvenience to his work. Yet during his final moments, in the midst of Second Impact, He gave up everything, including his own life and the research he cared so much for to preserve her life, leaving her confused, anguished, and unable to comprehend his actions. This resulted in Masato becoming a mute. She was confined to a facility. Her onlookers predicted that she would never recover from the trauma she had witnessed and her mind was lost, but she suddenly bounces back. She's strong but damaged. She subconsciously seeks out men that remind her of her father and finds Kaji, and they begin their sexual relationship. She finds herself unable to commit to the thought of motherhood, because she knows how she's in the very same position as her father, and worries of the potential neglect she might instill on her children. She begins to see her father and herself and openly admits that her father complex is why she's so attracted to Kaji. It's the same with Gendo and Shinji as they come to a mutual agreement that they don't want anything to do with each other, again paralleling the relationship that Masato had with her father. Now let me go over Masato's personality, which is conveyed in the reboot series. Her dad died saving her in an over-the-top 4-second flashback sequence, as told by Kaji to Shinji at a water park. Long gone is the scene where Masato looks up and the entry plug capture door shuts on her as she's about to utter a word. Long gone is somber scene where the camera pans out slowly to reveal her father lie on top of the plug and die in its embrace. It's never mentioned she was a mute, nor implied that she had a father complex. What if I told you that every character in the rebuild has more or less given the same treatment as Masato? All the characters have just lost a wealth of substance. Andre Billis and LGG Torrent say, this coexistence of the series with itself in different forms is relevant, of course when trying to determine the meaning of its later instances or presentations. The recent film that constitute rebuild of Evangelion cannot be fully understood without comparison with the original series. However, so far the rebuild films have failed to clutch the concepts of secondary belief. It pulls a lot of nonsense out of itself for the sake of surprising viewers who have watched NGE, and a lot of things haven't worked in the context of secondary belief. The latest movie in the ever reboot is 3.0, and it hardly works as a sequel to 2.0, let alone as a standalone story, and it relies on the potential of the fourth movie, so it will just have to write itself expositionally backwards to clear everything up. To summarize, the reboot series aren't bad films, but they are lacking. They botched the characters from the original. The original was a show that was made because of its flawed characters, so removing these flawed characters removed the best aspect of the story. They're lacking in humanity, lacking in symbolism, lacking in character, but more importantly, lacking in heart, soul, and saddest to me, thought complexity. Maybe I expected too much. With NGE and EOE before it, we are presented with moral questions to the top of an intellectual hierarchy that have plagued humanity since the dawn of thought. If everything can be contained within reason, anything can be explained by science, and every solution has an equation preceding it, what are feelings? What are ambitions? What's the point of carrying on if every interaction between individuals is superficial? And this term that we've created, genuine, is nothing more than an illusion to soften the blow of reality. And if this is the case, why live? Or to paraphrase, what's the meaning of life itself? Thanks for listening.